Hey everybody, this is Roberta Eastman and thank you for joining us here at Home Buyers Inventory. It's actually Home Buyers Q&A time. So today we have a question and a lot of people want to know the answer. So let's go ahead and get started. And today's question is, do you have to have a mortgage to buy a home? Buying a house is almost certainly the most expensive purchase you'll ever have to make. Then finding or saving the funds to buy your first home and get your foot onto that property ladder used to be almost impossible without taking out a mortgage to lend you the required funds. Although most people still don't have access to the amount of cash you would need to buy a home, there are alternative options to the mortgage that are starting to be explored. With the increased use of the internet to search for your new home and the increased involvement of the buyer and seller of the house, direct communication between the two parties has really never been better. So what I'm saying here is buyers and sellers are now communicating together to see if they can reach a compromise for the exchange of the house. And that's what we started doing here. The deals are becoming increasingly creative, and they can accommodate a whole host of requirements for either or both parties. So either the buyer or the seller or both. And that's what we do. We don't do business here unless it is a win-win situation for everybody involved. And the most widely used alternative to the traditional mortgage is that of a rent-to-own. Most buyers, particularly first-time buyers, they usually require a substantial payment towards the purchase of their new home. Now, this is usually a percentage of the overall price, and it's 10% as a standard. Now, if you wanted to get a conventional loan and have the lowest down payment, they require you to do 20%. That also allows you to not have to deal with so many rules and regulations, like if you were getting what's called an FHA loan. That's a federal government loan. Sometimes it requires only 3.5% down, sometimes even 0 down, but you've got to be extremely careful because, as an example, let's start with the 3.5%. You put 3.5% down, you do a FHA loan or a government type of loan, and what happens is they require you to get this insurance that doesn't cover you whatsoever. It only covers the bank, but you have to pay for it. It's called PMI, Private Mortgage Insurance. And it usually will tap on about $150 to $300 a month to your monthly payment. And it used to be way back in 1995 or so, it used to be that when you reached a certain equity level in your home, you could remove that. Well, a few years back, they actually decided that they were going to do away with that. So now it was the life of the loan you had to pay this extra money. And again, the PMI, Private Mortgage Insurance, is only for the use of the bank. It's so that, God forbid, if you do something wrong and you default on your loan, then the bank is insured by the government and you pay for that. So that's the 3.5%. Now the 0% down, there are people, veterans, who should absolutely use the benefit if they have it. But again, you've got to be careful because if you're a veteran and you're using it, that's one thing. But your payment might be a little bit higher, and you just have to make sure you're going to at some point gain equity in your home. If you're doing a 0% down and you're not a veteran, and that is going to increase your payment maybe years later, that's how we got into the trouble we got into when everybody in 2010 had foreclosures and short sales and all of that. They had 0% down, and then they had a variable rate. So, maybe they had a fixed rate for 5 years, 10 years, but then the rate adjusted. So you just have to be very careful with 0% down. And then the 3.5%, again, I know it's easier to get into a home at 3.5%. However, you also have that PMI insurance. Very much like paying a condo fee. It really is no advantage to you. So You just have to be careful of that. So 10% as a standard is a good thing, and then 20% if you can save 20% down, or if you have put it down and then had time to save over time to get to 20%, the conventional loan will give you the lowest amount of payment and usually a better interest rate. And given that most buyers, they're renting first, right? So they have to rent their current apartment, or they might be renting a house. But at that point, savings are not always easy to come by if you're renting an apartment. But the rent to own, that involves the original owner renting you the home for a specified amount of time. Within the time period agreed upon, you have the time to get yourself mortgage ready so you can obtain a traditional bank mortgage. So this is the least complicated way to get your foot in the door of your dream home and has been made much easier. With Home Buyers Inventory, we have a rent-to-own home program. So visit us at www.homebuyersinventory.com. Go ahead and look at the properties that we have available, and you can also get some free energy efficient home tips while you're there. So whether you have an apartment or you're going to rent one of our houses, you're going to have the energy efficient home tips. But get started by visiting www.homebuyersinventory.com and check out the properties that we have available for rent to own, or sign up so that you're notified first when we have a property in your area.